What's going on, everybody? This is Gary B. Jr., and today we're going to be doing another entire church service setup. Just a general idea of how to set up your service is something that I think is going to be really helpful for any new ministry out there that's thinking about getting started with free shows. So take this video as what you could do to help you get an idea of getting started with free show at a very basic level, because every church and ministry is going to be unique. And keep in mind, I've not talked personally with these ministries, and I'm sure there are going to be some things that'll be nuanced for them that they want to do that will make their particular live stream or their particular in-house service very unique. And so today we're going to be focused on a ministry called Bloomington Christian Church. They filled out a free show planning form, and we're just going to kind of go over some of the things that they highlighted that they want to have. And so let's look at that together. This has been submitted by, they found out actually about it by Michael Bird, who's actually on the board for Free Show. He goes around, he's the community liaison, if I remember correctly, and he goes around and he helps out ministries. So if you are a ministry that is looking to get started and you want some personal help and you want to actually intermingle a lot of other church app programs, he's the guy to talk with. I would just go to the church apps website and you can connect with him potentially and reach out to their team and see if you can get some support. But they offer not just support for free show, but across the board for church management systems and things like that. And the reason that they are thinking about free show because they believe it'll help them save money, and it has features that their current software does not have, which is Media Shout. All right, and so they would want to import some Media Shout files, which you can do through free show, if I remember correctly. And they have one audience display or a regular, display that they would show in the church, whether it's a TV monitor or a projector, and then they know how to connect them all, and they actually are using Macintosh computers. All right, and so they said they do have a logo, and these are the things they want to have in their audience display. So in-house displays, they wanted to have some motion backgrounds, some photo backgrounds like trees and mountains, graphic backgrounds, songs, lyrics, scriptures, scripture verse references, Bible version references. So a pretty decent um, layout here that is fully supported in free show. So that's a big deal. Along with, they want their fonts to be, or their text to be large, and some of it medium. And then they definitely want it to be bold. And they said they don't have any current colors for their theme. So we're going to kind of go in this one. We're going to try to do a generic black and white background for some of their stuff to make it that bold. And then look at what it looks like to have some motion background items as well. And then we've got one stage display. So this will be fun. We'll be able to set up a stage display. They've got one stage display set up at their ministry, and they want to include current slide text, next slide text, a clock, a sermon speaker timer, a worship timer, and a start service timer. All right. And so those are all unique things that you can do in free show to help move your service along. And also you can automate some of those things, which we'll try to do as well. So that's going to make this a little bit unique than just a general basic setup. But everything else so far seems pretty general and basic, which is important because you'll find out that a lot of ministries are a lot like you. All right. And then they said they do currently live stream and they send their feed to Facebook. What we'll do is we'll look and take a peek at OBS and how I would recommend you can get some of that to show up in OBS for your Facebook connection. All right. And they want lower third lyrics and scriptures. And then we've got the typical service is going to include prayer time, announcements, praise and worship, sermon, giving time, call to salvation, and communion. And then they also have some countdowns that they would need. So their starter service countdown timer is 5 minutes. They've got a praise and worship time that's 30 minutes. And then announcement time length is 5 minutes, along with 25 minutes for the sermon. And they use the NIV Bible, and they predominantly speak English during their service. All right. If you would like to get this type of organization or this jumpstart to getting your ministry started, this is called the free show planning form. It just asks you a series of questions to help you along the journey of getting started with free show for your ministry specifically. And it asks you these questions to make sure that you have a list of things, and you're going to be able to do exactly what I'm doing right now. And so with this form, I'm going through and I'm going to make sure that we meet all these criteria with FreeShow, because you absolutely can, no matter what program you're coming from, and or if you're new to having some type of presentation software in your ministry, you still can use FreeShow and use this FreeShow planning form to help you get started. You can access that from my website, GaryBJr.com. All right. Now, and that's going to be down in the description, so you can check that out down below. Without any further ado, let's jump into this particular setup. And I like to start with what we got here at the top is understanding what the goal is for the layouts. And they want a large, a medium, bold layout for their text, and they want a variety of different things. And so let's look and see what we can do in FreeShow to help the church get started. This is Bloomington Christian Church. And so I'm going to refer to them as Bloomington for now, and then throughout. All right. So over in FreeShow, we've got all kinds of stuff. So at the bottom of FreeShow, we got our shows, our media, our audio, our overlays, templates, scriptures, calendars, and functions. Oh my. So there's a lot of different things in here, and it can be overwhelming if you're just getting started with FreeShow. And we also have our settings up here. And speaking of settings, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with not having not having this live stream active. So I'm going to turn that off for now. So your FreeShow will probably look like this, where you have one output. That's your primary output. And then you got your three options up here at the top for your show, your edit, and your stage. We're going to be using all three of those today. Those are your primary pages to navigate this program. And then in our settings, we got some cool options here, which we'll navigate a few of these today as well. All right. So let's jump back into this main portion. If I were getting started with FreeShow, the first thing I would probably encourage a ministry to do is to check out the templates that are there. And you'll have any of these templates here that have this little shield on them. Those will be there for you by default, and you'll see them. And so they want it to be big and bold. This is one here that is big and bold. So if I right click on that, I can duplicate it if I want to. And it'll be something that we can edit. So I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate it real quick, just so you can get an idea. If you wanted to make changes to something like this, you can by just simply duplicating. And then on your new one, you can right click and then select edit. There's a number of reasons why I recommend you do this. One of them is being that you can just go into this edit page and get an idea of how it looks, how it works, and get your own plans for how you want to customize things. All right. So the first thing that you notice is on the right, this is a text box that's here, and you'll see it says bold text in the big and bold in the middle. And it shows you what it will look like. All right. And so we got this B highlighted for bold. The font size is 120. The color is white. And we're in the text box itself. Okay. We can change how it's aligned. Right now it's center aligned and center vertical as well. So it's top and bottom in the center. And then we also have some text options here for the spacing, word spacing, and things like that. If you're first getting started with FreeShow, this is not something that's going to be a big deal for you to know all the details of. But if you're coming from another program, you want to make sure it's comfortable and it looks consistent for your ministry if you're trying to make this a seamless transition. But if you're trying to make a big splash and you don't mind, I would not worry too much about these different things. And even if they're different than your previous program, but they are there to help you customize your shows, your slides, and things like that in a way that is pretty cool, because it's like PowerPoint mixed with this live presentation program where you can make changes on the fly and not have to stop the slideshow. All right. That's the biggest difference between FreeShow and PowerPoint that I can say. I think they both are great programs, but for a live event, slides are good, but they're even better when you can make adjustments to them as needed on the fly. Right. So this has to do with you not being the presenter and the one working the slide. This has to do with a person on stage presenting, or a person with, just making their presentation while someone else is helping manage the flow of the media. And this is where a lot of ministries come in, even schools and other things, other entities and things like that, where FreeShow is a very good solution for that. So this requires somebody else to be on the other end, typically, especially for ministries, to help manage this process, because they can make changes real time. And this is a good default, but maybe we say, you know what? I don't want the text to be as big. So they said they want it big and medium, or large and medium. So we're going to change this from 120 to 100. and it made it a little bit smaller. And then this option here that says auto size. As you get started with FreeShow, I recommend that you always turn on the auto size option to make it shrink to fit, just to ensure your text doesn't run off the edge of the page. That's a big deal. But if you're preparing properly, you won't have to worry about that so much. But if you don't have time to prepare, then I would just turn on auto size just to make sure. And it means that your text is always going to default to being 100 size font. But if there's too much text inside, it'll shrink down to make sure that it all fits. And it might shrink it down to be 90 or 80 for that particular slide. And then the next slide, if it has less text, it'll jump back to being 100. So it will make your text sizes vary from slide to slide if there's a lot of text on one and not the other. All right. So let's keep that in mind as we do this. Now we're going to go with this one. And so I'm going to go down to my templates and we're going to call this one. I'm going to right click on the actual template itself, and we're going to rename it. And I'm going to call it Bloomington Bold. All right. So that's there. And so this is what their lyrics are going to look like. Now, the next question is, what is their scripture going to look like? They said they only speak English, so we only need to worry about one language. And so I'm going to go to my scripture templates here. And for the scripture templates, they're going to be some that are default, like this one here is a default. And then this one here is for multiple scriptures. And this is for multiple scriptures as well. And then the rest of these were kind of after the fact designed by myself, but we want to do something very similar to what we had earlier. All right. Now you may not see something like this for your scriptures that I've got here. So we're going to act like those don't exist. And we're going to start with a template again. And so we got this one here that is a default for scripture, and it has a number 1 in there and a meta. What that represents is what the format of the text is going to be, and then where the scripture reference and version number and all that kind of, or version type will be there as well in this little box at the bottom. So let's do the same thing. We're going to right click and duplicate. And that brings us to, we should be looking for a scripture 2. Here it goes right down here. So I'm going to rename this one, and we're going to call this one Bloomington Scripture. All right. And now we want to format that to where it's kind of bold and not too big, but big enough. So we're going to right click on this and we're going to select edit. And so we see the text box here. It's got this transparent box, kind of a translucent box, I guess you could say, around it, or that is encompassed in. And then it's got an empty box here that's completely see-through. Okay, these are text boxes. So if I click on this, it'll allow me to edit this particular text box. And the first thing I want to do is I want to make it bold. We said we want to make it bold, and then I'm going to make this be a little bit bigger to be about 90. All right, and that made my 1 get bigger and it made it get bold. But I also want to look and see what other fonts do we have. So we can actually go through our computer from here, from this particular section. It'll pull up all the fonts you have on your computer. So you might say, I want my scriptures to be in Corsiva Hebrew, right? Or maybe this one here. I can't even pronounce that particular font, which is, it looks fine for me. Let's see here. I'm just looking to make sure. Yeah, we'll work with that. We'll go with that particular font. We got it at 90. And then this is centered from top to bottom, but it looks like it's left aligned, but I'm going to make sure to select left aligned. So all the text will be left aligned. And then down here, the actual reference is centered, both left to right and top and bottom. And it's in white and it's in this other font. I'm going to make it be the similar body or style that we had without the feet though. So it'll be the same name without the feet, the one I can't pronounce. And then you got the same options for line spacing and things like that. The other part of this particular program is you got this item box. So you can actually make this particular box here not be darkened at all. So the background opacity right now is set, but the background color is set to black. We can make it be completely blank and make it be nothing. And we're going to go with the completely blank look for now. And we'll see what it looks like where the background is just going to be black and the text is going to be white. All right. So now we've got our Bloomington scriptures set up, and we've got our Bloomington song set up. Let me double check here. Bloomington Bold is what we called it. All right. So we got those two done. Now that you've got your templates, the next thing I would encourage you to do is go to your settings at the top right, and then select the option that says styles. All right. And this is going to be a good way to have a good default for all of your scriptures and things like that that are going to show up in the ministry. So we're going to go here and we're going to select the option that says add at the bottom. And this is for a style. So we're going to make a style that's specifically for our ministry. So I'm going to call this Bloomington Primary. All right. And this has to do with what's showing in-house. And so we got this here. I'm going to keep the background black. The background media, we don't have their logo specifically, but if they wanted to, they could put their logo there and it would show up here all the time. Okay, this is what's showing in-house. Right now, it's just a completely blank screen, but they can have a logo that's embedded there that would show up all the time, which is pretty cool. And then transitions, we can change the transition type. Right now, it's set to fade. And if you hit this more specific, it fades in and it fades out for the text, and the media does the same thing. We'll make it to where the text does not fade in or out. Let's double check. So in and out is both set to none. The media is set to fade in and out, and the media represents like pictures and backgrounds and things like that. All right, so that's fine. And that's just my personal preference. And then we've got the media fit. All right, so media fit has to do with how do images fit into your presentation. And so if you're going to be getting images online to be your background, you want to make sure those actually fill the screen. So you can set it to be fill. But if you do that, what ends up happening is the image will be stretched. I would recommend cover or the blur fill option, right? So if you want your images to primarily be background images, you might try cover. But if you want to have images as a part of like a slide presentation and you don't want to distort them or have them run off the edge, then I would select blur fill. So it'll actually contain the image, but then it'll expand it and blur it on the edges so your full screen is still covered. And this is going to be really dependent on how the flow of your service is. If your ministry likes to use pictures as a part of your presentation for your day-to-day, then go with the blur fill. But if you only use images as a part of your backgrounds, right, for your lyrics and your scriptures and things like that, then I will go with the cover. All right. And so I don't know which one this ministry prefers, but we're going to do the cover option for now. And then it's set to aspect ratio 16:9. That's a typical television screen style, HD, 4K, and all that kind of stuff are going to fit in there just fine. In terms of these slides will fit in that ratio of a screen. Background, slides, and overlays. This is our active layers. When it comes to your in-house, you want all these layers to be active. All right, in-house boards, screens, monitors, and things like that. If they're going to be showing anything, you want it to be seen in-house. And so that means you want to show the backgrounds, you want to show the slides, and you want to show your overlays. All right. This is where it gets interesting because now you can make some adjustments. You can say, you know what, in our ministry, we want to set the max number of lines on any particular show to be 3. All right. So we're going to set that to be 3. And that's just based on your preference. This will help alleviate the need for your text to be bigger and smaller based on what's in it. But we'll say 3 lines or less. All right. And then override. All right. Your slide with a template. Earlier, we made our Bloomington template, so we're going to use that as our defaults, right? So this is the override, which means it's kind of like the default what everything is going to go into. And once you set this up, you basically forget about it, right? You just set this up and then it's done. So I'm going to go ahead and select the template for our slides. And this is going to be the Bloomington Bold, all right? This is what we want our lyrics. That's what the slides represent usually, like the lyrics and or, slideshows and things like that. Now for scriptures, same option, right? We have a different template that we can use for our scriptures as well. And this is what we're going to use. It's called Bloomington Scripture. All right. And we'll select that and then you just hit the little X up there. And then down here, we don't need to change any of the metadata for the display metadata. It says no slides, and then message template, it says message as a default template for that. All right. Now we got that done. but we need to go into our outputs now, and we need to go ahead and select that style for our primary output. All right. Right now, my style is set to default, but I'm going to go to my Bloomington primary that I just selected. And that means now our in-house is going to show that, and I get to choose the screen. Now, earlier I made it be an HD screen. So I'm going to select my monitor here that's in 16:9 aspect ratio, and then I can close that. And it'll show up here. This is 16:9, but it's actually a higher resolution than 1920 by 1080. It's 2560 by 1440. All right. And then always on top, we'll keep that active and on. Kiosk mode, I wouldn't recommend turning it on. It's something that is a nice feature, but very rarely will a church need that, to where you basically lock the computer down to where all it uses is FreeShow. All right. NDI, we're going to have that for this particular ministry. We don't necessarily need NDI on, but I'm going to keep it on for the sake of the presentation, because I do need to show you guys that. And I'm using NDI with OBS to show it, but you wouldn't necessarily need NDI on for your in-house primary display. But they do live stream, so we'll work on setting up their live stream in a second. Same process, but we're going to set that up here in a second. And then down here, we're going to leave all those options off to where it's transparent and then invisible window. We want this to actually go to a real window on a real screen. That's why we want that to be not an invisible window. All right, so now let's go to our show and test out our songs and our scriptures. All right. First thing we need to do is on the left side, you'll probably end up somewhere like this, and you can right click and select new project. You can even select a new folder if you want to, or you can go down to the bottom and do the same thing. You got those options down below. And so if you're new to FreeShow, I would just select this new project item and you would call it what you want. So I'm going to call this Bloomington Church. When I hit enter, it brings me into a blank project. All right. It says nothing here, but we get to make sections. All right. Sections have to do with the way that you organize your service. So let's go back real quick and let's look at their service layout. And that's down here near the bottom, their order of service. They've got prayer time, announcements, praise and worship, and then sermon, giving time, call to salvation, and communion. And so what I like to do is I like to call these first couple things before praise and worship, I like to call those pre-service. And then I'll make a section called praise and worship. Then we'll make a section called sermon, and then we'll make a section called post-service. You might have your own special names. You guys are brilliant. I'm sure you can come up with something that makes sense for your ministry. So we're going to do that. We got praise and worship, sermon, and then post. So let's go back into FreeShow, and I'm going to select a new section, and I'm going to call this pre-service. And I'm going to capitalize that. And I just hit enter, it locks it in, and we'll see a new section there. I'm going to create another one. We're going to call this praise and worship. And this just helps us organize all of our content in terms of our shows. Because unlike PowerPoint, typically with PowerPoint, you're just showing one presentation, one PowerPoint slide show, and you try to put everything in there that you can. With FreeShow, my recommendation is to break everything up to be its own separate show. If you're gonna have a song, make it that one song be its own show. The next song, it'll be its own show. The next song as well. If you have a set of scriptures from one book of the Bible, make those be their own show. If you got another set of scriptures from another set of scriptures from another chapter or book of the Bible, you can make those be a separate show as well. But if you want, you can organize all your scriptures to be in the same show. You would just have to put them in there accordingly. And that's possible. So now we got our pre-service, our praise and worship, and now I'm going to go to new section. We're going to select sermon, hit enter, and then we're going to do post-service. All right. And this is to give you an idea of how this works. And so I'm doing a lot of things that are good practices. Everybody's not going to be in an ideal situation, or you may not have the amount of time it takes. But my goal with this is that you understand that a lot of this stuff that we're doing, all this stuff we're doing, is a lot of it is just set up. You don't have to set up every service, but if you follow these steps, you'll be able to set this up, and you'll be able to save this project as a template the actual, all these settings we just set up with the new section and all that, even the styles and the templates, all that stuff is going to be ready for you in FreeShow when you open it back up again. And so you'll be able to do all this with the click of a button when you come in for your next service. All right. It does take some work to get it started, but that's with any other program as well. You got to get over that learning curve before it really makes sense. And so this is helping you get over that curve. All right. So pre-service, they said they want to have prayer time and announcements. So we got to make a show for prayer time and for announcements. So let's go to shows. And this is the first tab down here at the bottom in our drawer. I call it the drawer. And it helps you make shows. It helps you get media, all kinds of fun stuff. So I'm going to go to I'm going to do a new category. We're going to call it, for me, I'm going to call it Bloomington. But you can call it whatever you like, right? So I'm gonna call it Bloomington, and whatever you create your category for, when you make a new show, it automatically goes into that category. So we're gonna call this one, what do we say we need? We need prayer time and announcements. So we're gonna call this one Bloomington pre-service. All right. And the category defaults to Bloomington because that's what I started in. And we're going to do quick lyrics here. And we're going to call it prayer time. And then we're going to also make one that is called, I keep forgetting what announcements. So we got one for announcements. All right. And now it says new show, Bloomington pre-service. You can go ahead and click that and it pops up there. Now these look real basic and simple, which is great. But when I click on one, check it out. It actually goes into that bold font that we set up, okay, on that black background. Now, we got that set up, and then we would do the same thing for, we got it popped up. This is the Bloomington pre-service show that shows up here. And so I need to put it into pre-service section. So I'm going to drag it up right up under there, and it's in there now, all right? Now, notice that this icon is a little circle. You can change your icon. So I can go down here to the Bloomington and I can say, I want to make it have a new icon. And if you have something unique about your church or something like that, you can select that. I'm going to pick something that would be somewhat unique. We'll pick this house for now. We'll pick the house. And so now anything that's in the Bloomington category is going to have that little house icon. All right. Now we're going to do our next step, which is the praise and worship time. All right. So praise and worship time, we need to add some shows. For you, you might be importing shows. So you say you're coming from Media Shout. We'll do import at the top here. And let's see if we got Media Shout. We got Video Psalm, Open LP, Media Shout. So you would select this and then you would actually pull in those Media Shout files from here. All right. And it'll just pop up on your computer. All right. Wherever you have those saved, it'll let you trace back and bring those in as text. So it's going to bring in the text of those songs. We're going to act like we brought in some songs already. So I'm going to go down to my songs category here and I'm going to pick a couple of songs. I'm going to select this one. I'm just going to drag it into this project area. You can also right click on the song. I'll right click on this one and I can say add to project and it just brings it here as well. And then we'll do this song here. We'll just drag that in. All right, so we got these 3 songs. I could have just dragged them right up under into praise and worship, but I'm going to do that now. So I'll put those in praise and worship. And then we also have some sermon notes. Let's put in some sermon notes. We're just going to put in some generic scriptures in here for that. And so I'm going to select this and then we'll go all the way down to verse 9. And actually, they said they're going to be in the NIV, so New International Version. If you have not downloaded the New International Version, this would be the time where you can actually go into your file and, well, not here. I'm sorry. You can go to New Scripture down at the bottom. I keep forgetting that. But you can go down to New Scripture at the bottom and you can select API Bible. And I don't think NIV is in here yet, but they may be working on that to where it'll be available online. That's what API Bibles are. They're actually available. As long as you have an internet connection, you'll be able to get access to them. And NIV is not there. All right. But if you were to go to my website, GaryBJr.com, let's see here. I'm going to go to it here. And my internet's been going really slow today. But if you go to GaryBJr.com, you'll be greeted with a page like this with this fella on it there. And you go to products. All right. From products, you can actually go to any of these particular quick references. The one I recommend for you if you're new to FreeShow is beginning with FreeShow. And when you get there, it's going to give you an option here to download all kinds of Bibles. So ESV, NLT, Amplified, NASB, New King James, Message, and NIV currently. All right. And so you can view the product, and basically all it is you would just be downloading the Bibles completely free. You just hit get now, put your email address in. Make sure to check if you do want to get emails from me, check that. If not, just make sure you don't subscribe. That's completely fine with me. I want to get as many Bibles out as possible throughout the globe. So please make sure to download those and use them. All right. So once you do that, let's see, let me go back to FreeShow. You'll be able to go to new scripture this time, and you would go to local because you've already downloaded them. And then you would actually import from where you downloaded those from. Typically, it might go to your downloads folder, but I would save them somewhere else, like to your to a documents folder or something like that, that allows you to store those long term, because you want to keep those. Those are actually universally able to be used, especially in FreeShow. But there may be other programs you might get a long way away in the future, potentially, where they'll use that XML file as well. All right. So let's say you download the NIV and we've got it here. And we want to make this as a part of our service. All right. So I'm going to right click on these scriptures that I've selected, and I'm going to say convert to show. And it says, all right, max verses per slide. We're going to say one verse per slide. That's pretty standard. We're not going to split reference. And then it says reference on the first slide. I don't even need that either. So I'm just going to say convert to show. And notice it has this really cool template. I like it, that it defaults to, because I had that template selected down here. For you, however, that's not going to be the case. So watch what happens when I click this. It shows up, but it kind of takes away the color of that and makes it white. All right. We don't want that. We don't want it to do that at all. So if we go back, I'm going to remove this. I'm going to remove these verses from this show. So we'll say remove. So we don't want that in our show. I'm going to go down here to the template that we've got. And for you, you would actually probably be using one of the generic ones, but we're going to pick our Bloomington scripture default here. All right. I'm going to right click and make that into one. So I'm going to say convert to show. One more time, those same set of scriptures that I had, everything's set like it was. I'm going to select convert. And now look at what happens. It shows up and it does that. Okay. So we got the scripture here already. It's got the feet on it. Kind of gives it a little different feel than the songs. And I say feet in terms of on the text itself, right? On the actual letters. There's some, I call them feet, but some type of character to them. All right. But this showed up as Joshua chapter 1, verses 1 through 9, but it's under the post service. We want to drag it up into sermon. This just helps you organize. It doesn't have to be there, but it's there. Now, if you don't have time to find those scriptures beforehand, you can just show them real time. So you can go, let's say we want to go to Joshua chapter 10. I can double click that and it automatically shows up chapter 10 from down below. All right. For first time users, that's important to understand, but we're setting up the service. So we're doing this like premeditated, like ahead of time. You can set it up and have scriptures pre-made by simply right clicking and say convert to show, or you can just simply double click them down here and they'll automatically pop up in-house. All right. You can also just click them individually and you'll see it since you've already done it, you can just click on them one time and it'll automatically update. But if we go back to our show, this is verse 5. So if I go to verse 5 here, which is showing up, and I just click on one of these, it doesn't pop up in the main screen. It actually comes down here in our preview window to let us see what it would look like. Here's an example of it here, but it doesn't change what the in-house service sees. So this is a good way for you to find scriptures if you want to by going that route. You can also adjust the way this looks down here at the bottom. So you can change it from list view to be in a view that looks like this, where you can see all these different versions of the Bible, not versions, but color-coded Bible sections. And you can go to your scriptures that way, chapter, and then verse, right? We hit this again. we can see the list view. All right, so you can see those different versions. Now, if you wanted to type in a search, if we go over here, if I type in John chapter, let's do chapter 4, and I hit the space, it'll automatically put the colon in for me, and I can say verse 6. And it goes here and it talks about that, and you can actually hit enter and it'll populate that verse for you right away. All right. So you can literally do a search for any verse real quick. So you don't have to type in the full. Let's say we were typing in Corinthians. I could type CO, it says CO, and so it automatically went to Colossians. But let's do COR. Let's see here. It won't even let me get, because it's a first and second Corinthians. So you have to put in the number. So I can say first COR and it automatically comes up. And then I can type in what chapter, 5 space, and then I can put 6 if I wanted to, and it'll come up. All right. And so it'll show you that. And then if you enter, it'll automatically populate that into the in-house service real quick. All right. So it's a really good search function for you to find your verses really fast, hit enter and populate them onto your show. All right. That's just a little tip about how to use FreeShow. But back to the Bloomington service. So we've got some scriptures here for the sermon area time. Now we got to do our post-service stuff. And if I go back for post-service, we need giving time, call to salvation, and communion. All right. So I'm going to scroll back over. We need to make another show. So those things, I'm going to just put all those on the same show. And we're going to call this, we're going to go into Bloomington. We're going to call it Bloomington Post-Service. And this is one of those things that once you set it up, you don't have to set it again, because this is going to happen every service. And we've got, let me double check. We got giving, call to salvation, and communion. All right. So let's go back. We're going to do giving, call to salvation. And we'll do communion. And this will be depending on how often you do communion. If you do communion every week, then you can have that there. And when I'm doing those and entering them down, I'm just double checking. So we got that. If I hit enter, it actually makes it into a new slide. This is just a quick way to do it. All right. And so now I'm going to go ahead and select new show. And notice now giving, call to salvation, and communion are all separate slides, because I typed in one, hit enter, typed the next, hit enter, and it automatically put it in there into separate slides. All right. That's a really quick way to do a new show. And all I did was I hit new show at the bottom and I hit quick lyrics. All right. If you're looking for songs, you can do the same thing, but it'll be a little bit different, where you would just type in the name of the song. When you hit the web search, it'll populate the list of all the different sources it has for those lyrics to that song. All right. You can also just do an empty show where you just paste it in there later on your own if you want to, or type it out later. Or if you're going to copy and paste, I would do quick lyrics and just paste in what you got from your Word document or Google Docs or wherever you're getting it from. All right. So if we were to click on giving, it shows up, and it shows up with the bold like we want. Call to salvation, same way. Communion, same way, because it's using our default override templates that we already set up in our style and our output settings. All right. So when everything comes out on this, it's going to have those overrides built into it. And this is what the in-house congregation is going to see, which is great. Now, that's already in our post service. So that's perfect. We got everything set up here the way we want it to be. Now we got to do some customizing. Okay. So we got this song, right? So we got this song here. I'm going to turn off that action. So we got this song here. I'm going to select that, and it pops up a blank screen, which is good. And then when I select here, check it out. It automatically puts this in. It's got 3 lines up to, and it shows all the words there, which is great. This one here, same way. It doesn't have the 3 lines, but these lines really, they're just big. So it's really just 2 lines. And there I find you in the mystery is 1 line. And then in oceans deep, my faith will stand. That's a 2nd line. So it's really showing just 2 lines. It just broke it up to where it'll fit to make it 4 lines. All right. And same way here. And notice that background stayed there. That background was found in my media. All right. So when you want to add backgrounds, you want to go to your media, and you might have backgrounds on your computer, right? So I got some backgrounds here. I just went to new folder on my FreeShow settings, and then I let it point me to a certain folder. So if I select new folder, it'll say, okay, what folder do you want to pick? And you might say pictures or something like that. I've already got that selected. So you would then select open, and it'll automatically have that folder saved here with all of your images that you have. For me, I got one called YOLO Box Files. And so I got one called Clean Backdrops here. If I wanted to use one of those, I could. And I just made all these in Canva. But if I go back and I can hit this little arrow down here, I go to the grunge backdrops and you'll see a different layout. So this is a different layout here. And when I clicked it, these are automatically become your background if you click on any one of those. So I can click on that or that one and it'll turn it into your background as a default. All right. And it saves it for that particular setup. So if I go back here, you'll see that I've actually dragged an item here. So this little icon says, hey, this song has this background locked to it. But if I change the background, it'll automatically update in-house. It doesn't change this song. So if I go here, check it out. The song automatically went back because this song has this particular burgundy background locked in. If I want to change that or make that for you all, it would be something you would just drag in. So I can take this blue one and I can drag that on here. And now everything is going to be different. Now notice it didn't change real time. The reason for that is whenever you're in FreeShow, you can make changes and you make them behind the scenes and then you activate them whenever you want. So I can do it in a number of different ways. I can select a slide and it'll automatically turn blue, or I can just hit this little update icon right here to update the output and it should automatically update. Let's see if I click this now. There you go. You'll see it show up there. It was reading it as what it was before. And so it'll show up. Now we've got this, like I said, this kind of transparent box behind it. Since our template does not have a transparent box, even though you see it here, the way this song was designed originally at one point, it won't show up in-house because our template overrides even that, all right? So keep that in mind. I don't set my templates to have a color to them because I do like to change my media from time to time, or I tie the actual media to an actual song. So this one's about ocean, so I made it blue, all right? Now, we can do something else. Let's see here. I can go into this and we say, okay, it's about ocean. So I want to have the ocean in the background. They said they want to have some motion background. So let's see if we can find, not necessarily a motion background, but maybe just some images, because they said they do want graphics that way as well. So I'm going to go to this option under media. We're going to go to online and let's see if we can find something in Unsplash first. We got Pixabay there as well. I'm going to type in ocean. And we got some ocean options here. All right. And so you find one you like. I like this one a lot. So I can drag that one right onto this particular option here. And now when I click, it shows up with that ocean background in there. And I think that looks really cool. All right. So we'll lock that in and keep that there. All right. And you can pick any of these that you like. The big thing to make sure of is wherever you have it. So this one even looks cool. So if I can drag this one on, and let's see what it looks like in terms of colors and all that kind of stuff. So that one's pretty bright, but it doesn't look bad. You can still read it. It's pretty legible. If it's too bright for you, you can make adjustments to it. So I can close this out. And we're here with this one. I typed in ocean as my search. I can right click on this and I can select the option to say edit. Now this is an online picture, okay? It's not on my computer. I found it on this built-in Unsplash setup. And so I can select this image to edit and I can say, okay, I'm going to go to the filters to make some adjustments to it. I want to turn it down, right? I want it to not be as bright. So I can pull down the brightness and you'll see it kind of get darker there, right? I like that. You could, let's see, we can blur it a little bit if we need to, like that. That takes away the ocean vibe, but just a little bit doesn't look too bad, okay? But it's not too distracting to have it really clear either. It actually is really cool to have it clear. But you can make adjustments. You can change the hue of it all. It can be a purple ocean, red ocean if you wanted to. You can literally drag this all the way across and it'll go up from the whole gambit of colors and back to its default, okay? And so you can make it be custom. If you have a ministry theme color or something like that, you can pick that to be your theme hue of sorts. And then we also can make it grayscale and things like that. All right. I like this setup pretty good to where I just darken it up just a bit because I want to make sure the words stand out. All right. So now I can go back into my show, just click up here. So it took us to the edit page. I can go to show And now that particular setup is there. It's a little bit darker, right? And it stands out quite a bit. I love that. And this is kind of the way you would customize your songs. So this song specifically has the ocean background. The next song, we don't want it to have an ocean background. So this one says, I just want to praise you. All right. So let's find some backgrounds for that one. And this one I think would be cool to just have just a general motion background. All right. And so if I go back to my YOLO box files I've got on my computer, and so I've got another one here that's actually a video of ocean waves that I was playing with, and it's doing a search for ocean. So it found that, but I can clear that search out on the right side and it'll give me all of my backdrops that I've got. And I want to do, let's see here. We got video backdrops and I got this toolkit. Let's go to the toolkit and we got all kinds of different backdrops for that. This one says, I just want to praise you. It can be something like this, maybe some motion blocks. So if I select that, you'll see that going there. I think that's, oh, that's just the image. It's not actually, this is the one I want, the purple shapes. Those are actually moving. So I'm gonna drag that in. All right. So let's select that and let's see what happens. Let's update. Okay, there we go. So now we got this motion behind it, okay? And then it defaults to 3 lines of text. Notice here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different lines, but it only defaults to 3 to keep our text, formatted in a way that is not overwhelming, because this is quite a bit on one slide, all this. We set our parameters to where we said no more than 3 lines per slide. And so this is where that comes in handy. No matter how your songs got imported, no matter how your scriptures got imported, when it comes to you bringing them in from another program, this is a really cool way to manage that to where you're not going to have more than 6 or 4 lines. In this case, 3 lines is all we're limiting it to. But that's only half the slide. So in order for us to get to the other half, we can click the slide again and you'll see this little bar back here. If I go arrow to the left to go back again, it takes us there. I'm gonna go back here. It only shows the first half and you'll see this little progress bar. When I arrow to the right again, it changes it to show the second half. All right. I'm gonna arrow to the right again to go to my next part of the lyrics and it shows the first 3 lines and you'll see this progress bar here. Hit it again, it shows the next 3. Do the same thing with the next song. It's only 2 lines, so all of it shows up. There's no progress bar. No progress bar whatsoever. I can arrow again. No progress bar. It's only 1 line. All right. And we got our little slight motion background going on back there. All right. Now, if you wanted to, you can have something a little bit more bubbly. Like, I like this red background too. Let's see if I drag that on. You have something like that. It's kind of bright and vibrant. And then we got the bubbles down here is what I was thinking about as well. But I like that bright, I call it the sand. I'm not sure what it is, but it's a slight motion to it in the background. You can see it there. Now we got that song, but now we get to pick another song. So this is For Your Glory. This one has a purple default. We'll make it have, let's double check and see what other options they said they wanted for their FreeShow planning form. All right. So let's see. They said they want to have photo backgrounds. We got the ocean. Video motion backgrounds, we got that. And then graphic backgrounds like abstract art, images, design. So we'll keep that purple grunge on there. And then we've got all the lyrics and stuff like that going on. So we'll keep this purple grunge going on. When we click this show, it automatically changes to be purple. All right. And we'll get rid of these. These are just some actions that we had set up. And we will get rid of this default template thing here. And then I can arrow over and you'll see this one does have 4 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it cut it off. And so we got this progress bar and it goes over, I'll travel near or far. All right, let's see this one. This one has same thing, 4 lines. We got it defaulting to 3. And so whoever's navigating the scriptures needs to be able to arrow through and keep up with the flow of the service based on the 3 lines that we've got. Same way here. And then it goes to gotta be where you are, which flows perfectly fine to me when it comes to the way that you've got your service organized. This is all because in our settings, We went to our style, and for our Bloomington primary, we made it to where the max lines per text box is 3. And this has to do with songs and slideshows and things like that. It doesn't necessarily apply to scriptures, but mostly to the songs, right? So if we go to the scripture section, completely black and white, but you notice here, it shows the entire scripture. Even though there's multiple lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4. Not a big deal. It'll show an entire scripture, one verse at a time. All right. So that override of three lines only applies to songs and non-scripture text, right? So maybe a PowerPoint type slide that you have. All right. Now notice the purple background stayed there. If you don't want that purple background there, you can hit this little button here that says clear background and it'll go black. Okay. Even though this is black here, FreeShow will carry over any background you have unless you have a new one already preset for that show. All right. Remember, I told you this is like a series of a bunch of different shows. It's not just PowerPoint with one show that has the same background. You can have multiple shows that have their own background tied to them. All right. And if you don't have one tied to it, it'll just carry over from the last one and it'll just keep going with that same one to be consistent unless you tell it no, which that button does right there to clear the background. And then to clear the slides, you can do the same thing here and it clears everything out to be the background black. All right. We got all that done. That's a mouthful, but they got live streaming as well. So we need to do something similar from the very beginning with our template style and our output. So let's go back to our templates. And this, I'm going to go into this option or discussion of what they said they wanted. They said they wanted to have lower thirds for their live stream. If I go down, they said lower third lyrics and lower third scriptures. All right. If you go back into my website, I'm going to bring that back up just because it's so handy for that. If you go back to the beginning, this is the place here, but this has to do with templates. So we got some templates that involve lower thirds. This is an organic template. This just came out, but we've got transparent upper and lower thirds. We're going to use the transparent lower thirds completely free. If you need a lower thirds template, you can get that one. There's another one down here that's a basic lower thirds that you can use as well, completely free as well, along with if you have multiple versions or multiple languages, you can do that with this 2 scripture lower thirds as well. And then we got a camera and text template that you could use if you wanted to. But we're going to do this because they wanted lower thirds. And I've actually already got that on my computer. So we're going to use that as a part of our new template. And let's look and see what that template looks like. I made a category called lower thirds already. And so lower thirds songs, this is what the lyrics would look like, right? So songs would look like that, just lower third with white text. And then if it was scriptures, it's let's see what it looks like, lower third. So it'll have the scripture and then it'll have the reference down in the bottom right here, lower third, LT, scripture transparent. And then the other one for the song is called LT lyrics transparent. All right, so LT is the theme of both of them. So we're going to go to our settings in the upper right and we're going to add a whole new style. All right, this is going to be called Bloomington and it's going to be called live stream. If you're at the church, you just call it live stream or just primary. I'm doing this because I'm training and I got a bunch of them that I would use for every different church that I try to set up an idea for. So I'm labeling it that way and later on I'll get rid of it. But you won't ever have to change yours. All right. Now, for their live stream, they said they want lower thirds. That means they're going to have video playing on Facebook, but they want to show the scriptures or the song lyrics in the lower third section. So going back up here, we don't need to change much of this stuff, but we do need to change the active layers. For a live stream, we don't need a background to be active. We do need slides, and we may want the overlays to be active because that's where we might show some titles or a website or something like that. So we'll keep that active, but we're going to make sure the background goes away. All right. Max lines per text box. This one, you could set it to be the same. You could say 3 lines. I would probably say 2, but let's see what it looks like. We'll do 3 and let's see what that looks like online as well. So we'll close that out and then we'll select override slide with a template. This is where that LT is what we're going to be looking for. These are in alphabetical order. So I'm going to go to my LT lyrics transparent. Got it. Go back up to the top. And this one's override scripture with a template. So we got to find the LT scripture transparent. And let's see here. This is the lyrics and this is the scripture right here. All right. And I can close it out. And this just gives me a list of all of my templates. You won't have nearly that many. I just have a lot because I actually design them and make them myself, right? And so we got this one and that one set. We don't have to do anything with those. Now we've got to create an output for that live stream. So let's go back to our output section on the left, and we're going to select add at the bottom. And I notice I've got a live stream. Don't get it wrong. I do have that, but we're going to make one that's going to be a Bloomington live stream. All right. This is just normal output. We're going to call it normal, and I'm going to call it Bloomington Live. All right. And let's set this up from the beginning. So we got it enabled, and notice that it comes up here as another preview, which is great. And then it says, do you have a style that you want to use? Turns out we do. We created one called Bloomington Live Stream, and then it shows all our other ones we've got. So we're going to select that. And then the output screen, we don't necessarily need that because we're not showing this on an actual screen with a hardwired connection. That's what this is all about. We do need NDI. So we're going to go down and skip to the bottom, turn on NDI. We're going to turn on the audio as well. And then we're going to select this option that says transparent. We need to turn that on. This is the frames per second. You can keep it at 30 frames per second. That's a general default for a lot of cameras. Some of them might go to 24 frames per second, but it should not cause any problems. But if you know what your camera is outputting, you can change that here, and you'll see a list of different options here. All right. And invisible window. This is what we want to select as well. We want to turn on invisible window, and that just means that this is not going to be tied to an actual physical HDMI output or whatever type of output you got from your computer. This is going to be a virtual output. So it's going to be an invisible window with this transparency on it. So if I click this, you'll see it's got a little bit of a checker background if you look closely to it. All right. Now we've got that done. We've got our Bloomington live stream style set up, so we know what the scriptures are going to look like for that. Let's go to it and test it out. So we got two previews. We got a live preview and we got our primary preview. They're going to look a little different. Let's see how. If I click on this, we got Joshua chapter 1, chapter 1. It shows like this in-house to everybody with a black screen, but online it's going to show like this at the bottom. That's pretty cool. This is something that is pretty easy to set up if you notice in FreeShow, all right? And if I go here, this one is a scripture's got multiple lines. If we go down to the live stream, check it out. It has multiple lines. It automatically made it to where it adjusted to fit as well. If I just arrow to the right, you'll see this one's a little bit bigger, and it's in all caps as a default for that particular template that we have. For that lower third transparent, all the text is in all caps to try to make it as big and legible as possible for those online, but it's designed to auto fit. Okay, so it will fit to the whatever size the text needs to be within reason. All right, and you'll see the verse number down here. This is our range that we made the show out of. All right, and it shows you the number real small down here on the left side at the beginning of each verse. All right, so I can click out of that. In-house, they didn't see anything at the bottom. They saw everything up in the middle, just like this. All right. So we got our live stream set up. We got our primary set up. How do we get our stage set up? They said they want a stage display. Okay. And the stage is up here in FreeShow. And if we go to the stage displays, you notice I've got some that I've made already, but we're going to make a new one. We're going to call it the Bloomington stage displays. Let's see what we got. If I go back, and we look at this stage. So they got current number of stage displays is 1, and they want to show all these different things. So they want to have a sermon speaker, a worship timer, so a sermon timer, a worship timer, and a start service timer on the actual stage display. So that means 1, 2, 3 different stage displays. All right. So we got to be mindful of that. Anytime you want to add a timer, I always recommend making a new display for it if you want it to be shown on your stage display, and you can just switch to it later on. So let's do that. So we need to have a start service timer. All right. Let's go here, and we're going to go down to the bottom on the stage layouts, and we're going to go to new layout, and we're going to call this Bloomington start service. All right. And they said they want to have a timer on there. And so we will go to timer, but we didn't make one yet. So let's go back and see how long they need their start service. I think it's 5 minutes. If I go here, start a service, 5-minute timer. then a 30-minute, and then another 5-minute timer. All right, so we're going to go over here and we got to make some timers. So let's go to our show page. We're just trying to get to this drawer. So at the bottom right, there's this last drawer or tab called functions. When you click that, there's an option in there called timers. All right, I've got a few of them here, but I'm going to make a new timer. And we're going to say from start to end. But you know what's so cool? We can do towards a time. All right, so let's say that the Bloomington service starts at 10 a.m. All right, let's see here. We'll do 10 a.m. All right, and this is going to be called Bloomington Start. And I didn't spell that right, but let's fix it. Bloomington. All right, now 10 a.m. and then it says overflow when reached at the end. We can do that. All right, and it can blink as well. That's fine. And we'll offset it to blink we'll say every 2 seconds. Okay. And we can say create. Now, this is an interesting timer because this timer is going to count up to the 10 a.m. time frame. And this is going to happen every day in FreeShow, right? So 10 a.m. hits. If this timer is active, this is what it's going to do. It's going to turn red when it gets to 10 a.m. and then it's going to start to blink every 2 seconds after that. So we'll say create. All right. Now, notice that it's already blinking down here at the bottom. So that could be distracting, but it's designed to kind of get attention of people, right? So we'll keep it there. And then we're going to do another one that was, I believe, 30 minutes for worship. Let's scroll over. 30 minutes for praise and worship, and then 5 minutes and 25 minutes. All right. So we're going to do another timer. So we're going to go down to the bottom in our functions and timers. We're going to say new timer. This one's just going to be a start to end timer. This is going to be Bloomington 5. All right. And it's already set to 5 minutes by default. So I'll just say create. We're going to do another one that was for praise and worship. I think that was 30 minutes. So we'll do start to end. We're going to call this Bloomington Worship. And we'll make this be 30 minutes. We don't need it to overflow or anything like that. We'll just say create. And then we'll do another one for the sermon. This one, I believe, was 25 minutes. So we'll call it Bloomington Sermon. And we'll put that at 25. So it starts at 25 and it goes to 0. All right, we'll say create. And I think that was all of them. So I got the 5-minute, we got worship, and we got the sermon. All right, let's go back up at the top to stage. So this one is the Bloomington Start service. Let's go to it. It's going to look crazy, but bear with me. It'll make sense if we were actually closer to the time frame that we need. So this is what it'll do. All right, and we need it to just be pretty much big and in the middle. So I'm gonna select this timer, and it says first actor timer, but we actually want it to be. Let's see here. What did we call that one? Bloomington Start. There we go. That's this one. All right. And so it's showing up there. It looks kind of funky, but let's make it fit. All right, there we go. So it makes it fit in there. All right. So that's what it looks like as time goes on, and it's kind of crazy. Let's see if we can adjust that. Opacity, the type, that's fine. Let's turn that flashing off for now. We don't need that. So let's go back to our show. And let's go to that Bloomington Start. So here's the other option. They said they only need 5 minutes. So we can make one and call it Bloomington Start up here. That'll be a 5-minute countdown. We'll just call it Bloomington Countdown. And this will be a 5-minute. We'll just say create, and we'll change that stage display to have that one because that one was hurting my eyes. So we're going to change this, and we're going to change it to be Bloomington Countdown. All right. So it'll just do that. It'll just be a 5-minute timer for now. But that lets you get an idea of how intense that flashing is. So every 2 seconds or 3 seconds we set it to, you might make it to where it flashes like every 10 seconds or something like that, right? So it's not obtrusive and distracting for your people on stage, okay? That was a lesson for that. That's why that was blinking so hard, all right? My eyes are still adjusting, but we're good. We're good. Now, we got to do another stage display because this is just going to be for the countdown at the beginning of service, which doesn't need anything special. It'll just be right there in the middle, ready to go. They don't need to see any sermon notes or anything like that because service hasn't even started yet, right? So that's just a countdown timer. That's perfect. We're going to do another layout. We're going to call this one Bloomington. We'll call this one, pre-service. And actually, we'll call it, we'll call it pre-service. All right, so for pre-service, I don't think they had a time. Let's see what they had. Start of service, 5 minutes. Announcements time. They have announcements for 5 minutes. So we'll put that 5-minute timer in the pre-service and we'll put some slides up there. So they're going to need some slide text. We're going to just select slide text here and that pops up. That's just because that's the active slide text that we have. And we'll do another one that's going to be, go to items and we're going to select next slide text as well. So they'll know what is the next slide coming up. And I'm just arranging these to where they're right next to each other. And we'll do them like that, to where they're right next to each other like that. And we'll make, let's see here, we'll make this one be a background color that's not completely black. We'll make it be kind of like a gray. So it stands out just a bit. And I hit enter and that shows that they're separate boxes. And the next thing we'll do is we're going to go all the way up. I like to go to this top corner where it says more options. We're going to show labels. And that gives you another breakout outline around it along with the title for what's going on. Okay. The next thing we need is the timer. So we need our 5-minute timer. So we're going to go back to our items section here and we select the option to add a timer. It defaults to that first timer that's coming up here. We're going to drag that down. We're going to put this at 5 minutes and we'll do there another 5-minute timer. This is the Bloomington 5-minute timer. All right. And that's there and ready to go. The next thing we need to do is get to, so they see that. That's pretty much all they're going to need because it's going to be showing like prayer time and things like that. So if I go to this and we go to that stage display, so it's going to say prayer time. It's going to show announcements for the person on stage. All right. That's perfectly fine. If you go here, let's see here. This shows a text box, include media, keep style. So if I say keep style, you'll see it show up where it looks like it does on the display. If you turn it off, it just makes it fill the entire box, right? The entire text box, which is completely fine. It just depends on how big you want everything to be. Okay. So depending on how far away your stage display is, you may want it to default to be super big, or if your stage display is pretty close or easy to see from a distance, you can keep it at the default layout that it is here. Okay. Now we can also got this option for chords. We don't need that for announcements and stuff like that. So I'm not worried about that. So we got our pre-service. We got our start service. We got to do another one for praise and worship. So Bloomington. Praise and worship. All right. This one we need to have current slide, right? Song lyrics. That's what that's going to usually be. And we need to go back to items. We're going to do next slide as well. We're just arranging this to be the way we need it to be. All right. And then we're going to do my favorite thing on the more options on the corner right there. We're going to put some labels on this to show it. We can go to the text box and we can keep the styles. I think that's completely fine for this. So they can see what's going on pretty easily, exactly how it is. So we'll go to a song. Let's go to Oceans. And so it would look like that for the people in the house. Boom. It will look like this for the people online. It'll be video here, but on the stage, the folks on stage, it's going to look like this. All right. And so, like I said, if we go to, let's see here, to this, and we say to not keep style, it'll fill it in that way, or we can do it that way. All right. So it keeps it big and bold, which is good to see. And we can make some color differentiation again. We can make it be this to be burgundy or something like that to show that's upcoming. We can make it be, sky blue. I don't know, whatever color you want for that background to make that one be different than the other one. Okay. And you can make the current slide be green if you wanted to, for example, right? I like orange. Orange is a little bit too bold most of the time. So you might even just pick, like I did earlier, some type of light gray or dark gray to just give that box a little bit different background so they can tell, okay, this is, oh, it didn't save it. I didn't select it really good. All right, let's go back, choose custom. And that's good to go. I just click on that big box up there again and locks in. Now we need that timer. All right, so we need to go to items again. We're going to go to timer and we're going to find the active timer defaults to this timer tab. We need to find the Bloomington worship timer. And that shows up there. We're going to make this one fairly small because we got some other things we need to add. So I'll put that here. All right, so they can see the timer. For worship teams, another thing that can be helpful, let's see, we got text box, camera, clock, timer, media. Progress could be helpful. So we'll put that in. Shows you how many slides you got left. We'll make this be just as tall as that one. Boom. All right. And let's see here. We can do items again. And if we have anything else we need, I don't think so. We got chords. It shows you different colors, offset, size, vertical offset, and all that kind of stuff. We don't need to worry about that, but you could put chords down here if you wanted to as well. And let's see here. Media, item number. I think we're good here. We got keep style, slide offset. We don't need to do any of that. There's that one. That one's offset by 1. Okay. And they both have that chords thing active, which is fine. And we're good to go. So we got the Bloomington worship timer. We can pull this down. We'll pull these down to be at the bottom for them to see everything. All right. The next thing we have is the sermon slideshow. So let's go back to new layout. Let's do Bloomington sermon. And for here, we're going to need the next slide, right? So we're going to have current slide and next slide. We'll pull that over here. And we will do another item. Next slide. Pull that over. And boom. Go to my favorite, more options tab, show the labels. And that's fine there. And then we can also make it be a different color or whatever it is we want to. But we also need to add in another item from our items. And that's the timer, right? For the actual sermon time. So we'll go to Bloomington sermon. That shows up there. And we can keep this one as basic as that to just have sermon in the notes. But let's double check and make sure we got everything they said they want to have. All right. So for this, they said they wanted to have current slide, next slide. They said they want to have a clock, and then they said the timer. So we need to get a clock in there. So we'll put this here, 25-minute timer here, and we'll make this be, that's different colors. We'll make this one be like a lime green, and then we're going to put in a clock. So we're going to go to items, and we'll put a clock in. and it's going to show the time. We'll put that down in the bottom. So we'll drag that down here, and we don't need to show the seconds. So we'll turn that off, and now we have that there. We can make it a little bit bigger, right? Boom. And this is what the pastor is going to see, okay? And they said they want a clock, so we'll put the clock in on all these. So we'll bring this 5-minute timer down over here, bring that over, and then we'll put a clock in as well. Go to items, just select the clock. And we can bring it in. And we can make it not show the seconds. It makes it a little bit bigger, which is good. And then we'll do the same thing for the praise and worship. They may 1 o'clock. We'll see. We'll do it. We'll do it. So I'll put this up a little bit, this progress. Okay. And then we'll put a clock over on the right side. And we'll make this be the same height as that one. All right. And no seconds are needed as well for that. And let's turn off and back on. There we go. Okay. And so we got that there for all of those. They're all preset. We made all those. How do you transition to them? It seems like a lot is going on. Now, remember, this is all set up. So it's a set it and forget it for most of this stuff. So let's go back into our show. Let's get an idea of what needs to happen. So during the pre-service, we need to actually start a timer. So there needs to be this countdown timer thing going on. So let's go to, let's make a new section and we'll call it the countdown. And we'll move that one to be the top. I'm gonna pull pre-service down below it. All right, so we got our countdown there. All right. We're gonna go to shows. We're gonna do new show in the Bloomington. And this is gonna be the Bloomington countdown. It'll just be an empty show for now. And we're gonna do a new slide. And on this new slide, we're going to put a timer. And this is the 5-minute timer they said they want. So we're going to go to Bloomington 5 minutes. All right. We can just make it big like that. That's completely fine. We could add a background to it, but we'll do that here. So we'll go back here and we'll just put in go to media. And we can pick a picture, but I like the graphics for this. So we'll do like a video graphic from the toolkit here. We'll pick a fun video. We'll do the bubbles. So we'll drag that onto here. We'll have teal bubbles for our countdown. All right. So that'll show up there. And when you click it, it automatically starts. All right. And this is showing up just like that during service. I like it really big like that. Some people may not. So you can actually go in and edit and you can make it smaller. Right. So we'll bring it down to be a bit smaller, but still centered. I like it nice and centered. And there we go. And then you don't have to have text here. You can put text there if you want to. You can go to your items and you can add a text box that says starting in. And we'll just bring that box up and just put it right there on top. Okay. That's a pretty generic look. And now notice over here, it's not showing up, right? It's not showing up that starting in that we just made. Remember, you have to go over here and you can hit this little icon that updates it and it puts it in the middle as that default. So we can do a couple different things. We can drag the time down, or let's just drag the time down. We'll pull that down to be below here. And see what that does. Still not low enough. And that's just because of our default that we've got going on there. Let's see. Let's just make the timer smaller, just a little bit smaller. And it'll be down at the bottom. Even though we got it formatted like that, we got that template override and everything, which is good. Just keeps it simple. And then let's update it. And so it looks like that. So even though it looks like this on our slide, this is what the audience is going to see. They're going to see that in-house, and then they're going to see this in the live stream. Okay. You can customize those to where it won't do that. You can make it override in terms of the template and all that stuff. I'm not going to do that for this one because it's kind of cool. I like it like that. That's actually a unique way to do a template with our layout for the countdown timer, which I like. All right. So now the next thing we need to do is we need to set up what's showing up on the stage displays when we get to these different sections. Okay. So the pre-service, we can go down here to options and we can actually add in some actions if we wanted to, but we haven't created any action. So we need to create an action. And the action we need is to change these stage displays to be showing up in different times. Okay. So we're going to go to functions. And we're going to select the option that says actions. Now this is to help automate your flow. You don't have to do this, but it's helpful to do it because it simplifies things. All right. Now the first thing we got to do though, before we do that, we got to show our stage display. So let's go to our settings and we go to outputs and we got this one that says stage. And it says, okay, do you want to activate the stage? We're going to say, yep, we want to activate the stage. Well, what do you want? Which stage layout do you want? And we made a bunch of Bloomington ones. So we're going to do Bloomington start service. And it's showing up here. All right. And that should be just fine. So we'll go back to the show. Now, the interesting thing is that this one did not start up at the same time as the others did. So we go to our functions and to our timers. That's the Bloomington 5-minute one. I'm trying to look and see if I got any others that are 5 minutes. We got one right below called the Bloomington countdown. So the 5-minute is there, but this is a countdown timer on the stage. So we need to change that to be this being the Bloomington countdown on the show called Bloomington Countdown, which I didn't put into the countdown. So let's drag that up to the countdown section. Too far. There we go. All right. So here we got the wrong timer. So I need to go here, select this one, and we need to select Bloomington Countdown. And it's actually a 10-minute timer. That's interesting. Let's check the stage display for that one. Let's see which one I picked for this. That one says Bloomington Countdown as well. And there's 2 of them. I didn't know I made 2. Let's go back to the show and check out what's going on. In the settings here, yep, I got 2 countdowns, 10-minute and a 5-minute. So let's right click on this one and delete it. We don't want that. All right, so now this one will be the 5-minute. So let's change this one. We're going to select and go over to the timer option, and we're going to select Bloomington Countdown. There's only one, and it's a 5-minute one as well. All right, so we'll go to show. And now when we start this, everything should start at the same time. And notice that the stage display is showing up a preview, the online is showing, and the in-house is showing. And they all are in sync because they're all on the same timer. That's very important in this process. I, for whatever reason, made a 10-minute countdown for Bloomington early on, but they wanted a 5-minute. So we just changed them all to 5 minutes. And so every one of these is set to the same countdown timer, basically. And so they're all in sync automatically. You don't have to worry about them being in sync because they're the same timer. All right. The next thing we need to do is go down. Let's add our functions. This is where we're going to create some actions to say change the display for the stage. All right. So we're going to say new action. We're going to say Bloomington. We'll call this one countdown stage. And then we're going to select choose action. And from here, we're going to actually say, we're going to go down to this output option to select change stage output layout. And it says change the stage layout. And we want to change it to Bloomington. I think it's start service. Yeah. And we want to pick the actual stage layout. All right. And then we can go ahead and hit enter, and then we can just close this out. It automatically saves it and it's there. And if I were to click this, it doesn't do anything because this is already set. Okay. But what I want to do is I want to have that be a part of this particular slide. So I'm going to drag this action onto this slide. And we'll see why that's important in a second. We're going to do the same thing, but we're going to make one for the pre-service. So we're going to say Bloomington pre-service stage. All right. Choose an action. We're going back down to our outputs, changing the stage output layout to Bloomington pre-service. And we're going to pick the stage is the one that's going to show up on. We can close that. And if we go here to Bloomington pre-service, it goes there, but this timer is still going, right? So we want to change that. We want to go to pre-service stage. So we're going to change and put this onto here. So now when I go here, check out what happens to the stage layout. It automatically goes to this one. All right. And then our Bloomington 5-minute deal, it needs to start up. So let's go to functions pre-service and we'll edit this one. And we're going to add in the timer. So let's see if we can find some section or actions in here for timers. So we'll say start timer, and it says, okay, which timer do you want to start? And we're going to go to our Bloomington, I believe it's just the Bloomington 5, right? Because not the countdown. So we're going to go Bloomington 5, and that's good. So we'll go here, close that. Now, if we go back to our countdown, all right, now click on that, it automatically changes the stage. When I go to the actual prayer time pre-service slideshow, and I click on that, it goes there. Now I didn't start the timer because the timer actually already ran out. So I got to go to that 5-minute timer and just reset it. All right. So let's check it out again. I'm gonna go to the Bloomington countdown. It's going. Bloomington pre-service, we'll go there. And it should automatically start. Let's see, let's take that off and put it back on. That same action. Because I wonder if it didn't stick. So let's go there again. There we go. So now you'll see that timer start up for those that are doing the pre-service. Okay. And so we'll have the prayer time and announcements all happen in this 5-minute time frame. And we would hit next and we would go on from there. Now, if you said, hey, you know what? We don't want the timer to start until it's time for announcements. That's completely okay. What we would do is I would take out that action. So in this action, I put 2 things on the pre-service. So I'm going to say edit. And we're going to remove that start timer deal. We're going to close that out and we're just going to make it change the stage layout. Okay. That's good. We're going to make another one though. That says start timer. So we'll say new action. We're going to say Bloomington announce 5-minute. All right. And then we're going to select choose action for that. And we're going to find the timer options. We're going to say start timer. And this is going to be the 5-minute. Bloomington 5. Boom. And then it's just one action there. We'll close that out. And so now we got the Bloomington announce. I'm just going to drag that onto the actual announcement slide. Okay. So now when the announcement slide starts, it'll do that. But let's reset the timer. So I'm going to go to my timers option down here on the left, and we're going to hit reset for this 5-minute timer. All right. So we're in prayer time. We're done praying. We're going to go to announcements and now watch the stage view. Boom. It automatically starts the timer for the people on stage. And this is a automated process that you will set up, and you will just drag this, or and if you're going to keep the same layout for prayer time announcements, you don't have to do anything with this again, because we're going to save all this. It's going to become a template. It's going to automatically do it for you. All your volunteer is going to do is arrow to the next slide. It's going to start the timer for them. It's going to automatically be in the right stage display for those on stage. They're going to know how much time they got. It's perfect. All right. Now for the praise and worship. Okay. So we got praise and worship. We got 3 songs there. We got 30 minutes. but we also have a stage display for that 30 minutes. So we need to create an action that changes the stage display. That action needs to be dragged on the first song every week, okay? If you're going to flow that way. If you plan to arrow through the entire service, you can put that action on the praise and worship section header here, okay? But let's create the action first. So we're going to say new action. I'm in my functions tab under actions, and we're going to say Bloomington worship stage, okay? Choose action. We're going to change the output, change the stage output layout to be the Bloomington praise and worship, boom. And then output is going to be the stage. That's where it's going to go. And that's pretty much all we need, but we also need to add that timer. So this is going to be for the first song. We're going to add in start timer. So go down to the timer options. We're going to start that 30-minute timer that's in the stage display, okay? And it's the Bloomington worship right there. So now we got that, and we have two things that are going to happen on this one action. Action number one is going to be changing the layout on the stage. And action number two is going to start this timer. So we close it out. And Bloomington worship stage, I'm going to go to Oceans. We're going to drag Bloomington worship stage right onto that first slide. All right. Now it's on announcements. When we get to the first song, we're going to click that first song, Oceans. Boom. And select the first slide. Boom. It automatically starts the timer. This is what your people on stage are going to see. It's an empty slide right now with just the ocean view, and then they're going to see the next slide coming up and the clock and the time and all that kind of stuff. All right. So then when we go here, it shows this. We got our live stream feed, our primary feed, and our stage display all showing. This is a robust program. I love that FreeShow can manage all of this at the same time. And then we need to finally do some more with our sermon, another action for that first set of sermon notes. All right. Same idea. I would just drag an action onto the first slide of the first of the show for the sermon. If they have their own organized notes, or if it's just a bunch of scriptures, you can drag it onto that first set of scriptures and it'll start the timer for the speaker. And the way to do that, we go down to our functions in action, and we're going to select new action. I'm going to call this one Bloomington sermon stage. We're going to select new action, change stage output layout, and we're going to select the stage we want. We want it to be Bloomington service. And we're going to select the stage. It's going to be on the stage output. That means the screen. They have one screen for the stage. We're pointing everything to that. All right. And we need to also add a start timer as well, because we want that timer to start in that stage display for the speaker. So we want to say start timer. We're going to pick which timer we want, and we want it to be the Bloomington sermon timer. Boom. Two actions under one click. All right. So we're going to take that out, and we're going to drag on Bloomington sermon stage onto this first scripture. So we got, let's see here. I'm going to go to this last song. All right. Let's see what happens. And we go there. The timer automatically started, and we're at our first scripture. We're ready to go. Now you may end up having like a bumper slide, which would be pretty cool as well. That just is a speaker announcement slide. So let's see what that would look like. So I'm going to take off this action here. We're going to put it onto the sermon bumper slide, which you can make a part of your template, which would be really cool. So let's go to shows. We're going to say new show. It's going to be in the Bloomington deal. We're going to call this Bloomington speaker. And we're going to keep it as an empty show for now, because we're going to do something a little spicy. We're going to add in a variable. All right. So in our functions, we're going to go to variables, and we're going to do, I already made one here called speaker, but we're going to make a new one. We're going to call it Bloomington speaker. And it's a variable, new variable. We're going to go to text. We're going to call this Bloomington speaker. And that's done. And it's here, Bloomington speaker. And we're going to call this Gary B. Jr. for now. All right. That's there. And now we've got this variable here. It says Gary B. Jr. We're going to make that, we got this actual show we made called Bloomington Speaker, but we don't have anything in it. So we're going to make a new slide and we're going to add in a text box. And what we're going to put in this text box is that speaker. Every week, your volunteers is going to go to the variable and put in the new speaker's name. And only way to do that is to right click in this text box and select dynamic values. We're going to scroll all the way down. And we're going to look for variables and we're going to select Bloomington speaker and it shows up right there. It looks weird, I know, but trust me, it's going to work out perfect. We're going to say show and now it just says Gary B. Jr. But we're also going to add in, so I'm going to stop that sermon timer from going for now, just so we can look at that for this particular setup. And this is the sermon right here. We're going to stop that. We'll stop the worship timer too for now, reset those. And we're going to drag that action. So I'm going to go to the action section in the Bloomington sermon stage. We're going to put that here on that. And we're going to put that speaker show right up under our sermon tab. So we're going to go from worship into the next speaker. And it just happens to be Gary B. Jr. All right. And while Gary B. Jr. is coming up, the timer starts. And then we get into the scriptures and it shows up there. All right. That would be my recommendation for your speakers to have. I'm going to just call it a bumper slide for now. And it's just a show that has one slide in it that has a variable. You can customize this to look a special way and do all kinds of fun stuff with it if you want to as well. It's completely up to you. So we've got that done. And then we would have the post service, and that has to do with the giving. That will show up. The call to salvation shows up. The communion shows up. And those are showing up in different ways. So we got this on the live feed. We got this on the in-house. And we got this on the stage display. All right. Now, we got to figure out how to get this to stream on Facebook. And the way to do that is to go into OBS because we already set up NDI. So we'll go into OBS. I'm going to drag that up here. And let's pull that up on top of here. And I'm actually recording with OBS, so I'm not going to stop the recording, but we're going to show you what we got here, all right? And I'll just maximize it. All right. So what you want to do is I'm going to go to studio mode. You're going to create a whole new scene. All right. So you go to the left side, bottom corner on the left. We're going to call this Bloomington live stream. All right. And then it's going to be blank with no sources there. All right. So you want to select the plus sign to add a source, and you're going to do a video capture device. This is what you're going to have your camera plugged into your computer with. All right. Select that. We're going to call this GH5 for now. We'll say OK. And we're going to pick which that is. It's going to be this USB device. We'll say OK. And now we got this, and I'll make it to where it fits. My actual camera shoots in a different aspect ratio for the way I got it set up. All right, so I'm gonna make it try to fill in. Boom, that's done. So we got our camera source here, but we need to add another one to add in that OBS NDI feed. I mean, the OBS, the FreeShow NDI feed. So we go to NDI source. All right, we're gonna call this Bloomington FreeShow. All right. So now I'm going to go up here. We're going to look for that output. So we got the primary for FreeShow, and then we got this output one. That is the one that we need. We select OK. And notice I don't see my communion showing up on there because that's the slide that we're on. I need to right click on this Bloomington FreeShow. I'm going to select the option in the middle that says transform, and we're going to just say fit to screen and check out what happens. Communion shows up there. And if I were to go to FreeShow, and we go to oceans, right? Let's see what it looks like now. it would actually have the lyrics for Oceans there. Okay. And so that's how it would be set up for you in OBS. And then you would just transition by clicking that button and it'll automatically bring that in. And this is your worship team going, they're singing, they're praising. And then the other thing you would need to do though, you would need to go into your settings and you would actually set up Facebook to be the place that you stream to. And you can actually stream, you can start your stream here and then go to your computer on Facebook, and you would have to set the settings up to where it'll point directly to Facebook, and Facebook will get it and it'll send this signal out that you have in your from FreeShow combined with OBS. It'll send it out to Facebook. All right. And your audio and all that stuff needs to come into your computer somehow. I would make it all go through the camera and have the audio from the camera showing up. And mine's set up here is mic auxiliary here, and it's actually my camera. So if I go here to audio, you'll see that this is my USB 3 digital audio, and that's the same feed that my camera is coming from. The actual camera video feed is coming from USB 3 digital audio, the video capture card. All right. So I'm going to cancel that out. That's how you would set up your audio and your video for your live stream. If you have music playing through FreeShow, it'll show up here as well. And it'll just play through. I got FreeShow live stream as the default of what this is, because that's what it's actually called. From my original setup, when I wasn't doing the Bloomington setup, it was set up as called FreeShow live stream, or FS live stream. All right. So let's go back into, let me get this out the way first. And we don't need studio mode. Pull this down. So we got the lower third lyrics on Facebook. We've got all the different start of service timers. We got all the different items in their show. We got the Bible version there as well. We talked about how to get that. And we got the large, medium, bold text. We got all the motion backgrounds. We got the ocean background. We got moving images, all that kind of stuff, graphic images, and everything for the Bloomington Christian Church setup in FreeShow. Your setup may be similar to this. And so what you would do is go into FreeShow, download all the things you need from the GaryBJr.com website, and get started. You got to dive into it. I would encourage you to make sure to download FreeShow at home to play with it, practice with it. You can set all this up and you can save it, and then you can actually bring it to the church service if you wanted to by going to your settings. You can go to your files and you can get all the shows you've created by clicking this little button here. It'll take you to where your shows are. You can save those on a thumb drive, bring them to church, upload them into FreeShow. If you have, I'm trying to think what else you would need to do. You could do a full backup if you wanted to, right? So if you needed to back up everything, you can do that as well. Let's see here. We got auto backup, we got auto save, but let's see, general, no, outputs, files, other, bundle all media files, and auto updates. I'm looking to see if there is a backup for everything. Export your usage log. Here we go at the bottom right. I think open user data folder, open up data folder. Let's make sure I'm not missing that. Oh, down at the bottom here. I just overlooked it. Back up everything. So you can literally back up everything and then go into, take that on a thumb drive and then take it to your church and have everything that you got set up here. Because you were watching this video at home and you got everything set up, all the timers and everything, you can bring that into your settings into your other computer at church. Hopefully this helps you. This was a super long video. It's almost 2 hours long. That's crazy. But this is an ideal setup. It's not going to happen quick and easy, but the final thing you would do to make sure you save all this is you can go back. So this is called Bloomington Church Project. I can go back. I can right click on this and I can say create a template. Boom. So now I got a Bloomington Church template that every time we go to church next Sunday, and the Sunday after that, and the Sunday after that, I just go here to my templates and I can click on that and I just name it the new date. So this, let's say this is going to be 6/15/2025. I just put the date in there and it automatically opens up everything with all the timers, all that stuff already set up. All I got to do is change out the songs and change out the scriptures and we're all set. All right. And if you need to change out the songs, like say you can make a bumper slide for the songs to where the worship bumper song just says worship time. You put that action on that slide and it doesn't have to worry about being on the first song slide. You can put a bumper slide in there, just like we did for the bumper speaker, to where it will put that action to it by dragging that action right onto that slide. All right. So I'm Gary B. Jr. Hopefully you learned something from this and you can apply it to your ministry. Leave a note in the comment. I know it's long. Don't remind me, but let me know if it helped you out in any way. All right. God bless. Thank you for watching this video. I really hope it helped you in a major way. Now, at this point, most people would ask you to like and subscribe, and I think that's great, but my goal is a little bit different. My goal is to empower as many people as possible all over the globe. And there's one way that you can really help me do that, and that is to leave a comment below with a question, a thought, how this video may have helped you, or things that were left out that you still have questions about, and to share this video with someone just like you, someone who is looking for answers, someone who's curious and wants to grow. With your help, I believe we can build a community of people that want to grow together. So until next time, God bless.